Welcome back to Oulton Park, everybody. Round 10 of the 2023 Focus Cup Championship is coming up very, very shortly. If you joined us for race 1 earlier on today, you'll have seen that it was red flagged, unfortunately, following an incident down at Cascades. And we have had a few other delays as well, but this is our second race that's coming up for you. Let's just guide you through the grid then and the way that they'll line up. This is based on the top 6, and each top 6 get reversed. So Mark McCann, who finished 6th in race number 1, starts from pole position alongside Sean Reynolds, winner from Donington Park the opening round. John Baker and Simon Waugh, both winners so far this season, sit there on row number 2. And it's Ian Mitchell and the race winner from earlier on today, Lewis Clark, that complete row number 3. Then the next batch of 6 that get reversed sees Simon Walton start from 7th position, the inside of the 4th row of the grid, alongside Nick Abbott. Dale Jamieson, who had a busy old race earlier on, alongside Andrew Weiss, who's there on row number 5. And row 6 of the grid is Dave Todd and Ian Graham. Greg Saunders should be sitting down the inside of the 7th row of the grid alongside Abby Walton, and it is Oulton Park Marshal Jamie Good who has Sarah Hall, a non-starter for race number 1 for company, on row number 8, and then it's Simon Watts who is there on row number 9. Unfortunately, I don't think we've got Josh North out. He was one of the other cars, including Simon Watts, that was tangled up in the incident earlier on today, and Simon Watts is starting from the back of the grid. Based on the championship regulations, because he wasn't running at the time of the red flag, but I think has jumped into a spare car. Still very blustery here at Oulton Park. There's still a reasonable chance of rain. We've had a few showers come in and out over the course of the weekend, and hopefully now those showers are behind us and we are good to go for the rest of the day. 20 minutes this race will be. And after this weekend, then the cars head to Brands Hatch for their final batch of 4 races that will be taking place there over the course of the weekend of the 16th and 17th of September. I can see by the look of things that Simon Walton has taken a different car for this race. The number 9 car is a different colour. That's a good thing about this. You pay your money and it's an arrive and jive championship where all of the cars are prepared centrally, but they always bring spare cars as well. So Simon Walton has, I think, moved over to a different coloured car, and also Simon Watts, who was involved in the incident in race early on. His car was too badly damaged, so he will start in a different car. All diesel engined, 175 brake horsepower. There is the number 23 car at the back of the grid in the hands of Simon Watts. It's no longer the orange and the white and the blue car. It's now red and yellow and blue by the look of things for Simon Watts. But he'll be one to watch out for, the 23 off the back of the grid. And he's got 15 minutes to try and carve his way through the order. Red lights on, and the red lights go out now. Mark McCann starting from pole position, but Sean Reynolds gets a much slower start from the outside of the front row of the grid and is now already trying to move over to defend from the fast starting John Baker. The number 10 car should have the inside line. They lean on each other heading up towards Old Hall Corner, the first corner, but I think they've all got away with it. A few cars just running a little bit wide, but everybody is safely through Old Hall Corner as they descend downhill through Dentons and Cascades for the first time. It is John Baker that has taken second place, and by the look of things, Sean Reynolds takes a wide ride through Cascades Corner and has dropped down through the order at the wheel of the light green number 777 car. So the man who won the first round of the championship was hoping for good things from the outside of the front row of the grid, but he's down to 6th position by the look of things already in this race. So up towards the braking area for Shell Oils they come for the first time. Mark McCann leading the way at the moment. Now, the best result Mark McCann has had so far this season was second place in one of the races that we had at Snetterton. He's had a few other top 6 finishes, but that is his only podium so far. He is leading the way here from John Baker in second place, Ian Mitchell in 3rd. Then it's going to be Lewis Clark at the wheel of the white or silver and blue car that sits there in 4th place, the man who leads the championship and extended his championship lead earlier on as a result of having both qualified and pole position. But we're going to have a change for the lead as John Baker dives up the inside of Mark McCann, who's having none of it. Just make sure that he gets the car turned in towards the corner, but still John Baker's trying to find his way through on the run through the second part of Hislops and on towards Nicker Brook, but all is not going to work for him at the moment, so he still remains in second place despite his very, very best effort to try and squeeze his way through the order. Simon Watts at the tail end of the field also finally, I think, trying to make up a place, but what a battle it is at the front as they charge their way through Druids for the first time and then start to head underneath the Warwick Bridge and up towards the braking area for Lodge Corner. Mark McCann still leading the way. John Baker trying to attack, but he's coming under attack himself from the 3rd place car of Ian Mitchell. Then it's Lewis Clark, followed then by Simon Waugh, and Sean Reynolds is at the tail end of the top 6. but we are still in the same order that we were. Now Mark McCann is a little bit slower coming out of Deer Leap, and this offers up possibilities here for John Baker, trying to prise the door open. Is he going to have enough momentum to squeeze up the inside when they get towards Old Hall Corner? No, order still remains the same. Nothing to choose between the top 5 though at the end of lap number 1. Dale Jameson chucks the car, the number 217 car, in towards Old Hall Corner. Needing to be careful because he's got Ian Graham right behind him, and now by the look of things are going to have a change for third because Lewis Clark has managed to get up the inside of Ian Mitchell's power maxed car. The two of them run side by side for third and fourth place round through Cascades. Wider line through the corner allows Ian Mitchell to get on the power a little bit earlier. Can he complete the overlap though, Lewis Clark, by the time they get up towards Island Bend? No, he can't, so Ian Mitchell still hangs on to it by the skin of his teeth, and now Lewis Clark, from trying to gain a place, just needs to make sure he closes the door. Lock breaks ahead, and by the look of things, Mark McCann gets sideways. That's going to allow John Baker through into the lead of the race. Ian Mitchell up to second, and Mark McCann all of a sudden is now down into third position. You can see the brake smoke there, the tyre smoke, as he got everything locked up, and he might be down to fourth. Lewis Clark makes a little bit of contact with Mark McCann, has to shortcut the Britain's chicane, but he's through and up to third. McCann is down to fourth, now feeling the pinch. The man who started from the outside of the front row of the grid, which is Sean Reynolds, who has also got Simon Waugh with him, so we're almost 3 wide further back. In fact, Simon Waugh gains 1 place. Is he going to gain 2? Yes, he does. Can he get turned into the corner? Yes, he can. So it's all come unravelled on this lap for Mark McCann, who was leading and is now at the wheel of the number 64 car, down into 5th position and coming under pressure from the light green car of Sean Reynolds that sits behind. Brilliant racing as ever in the Focus Cup. Charge their way uphill. 175 brake horsepower in these diesel engine cars, the best part of 250 pounds-feet of torque. So a nice torquey engine, as you would expect from the diesel engine. You don't need to rev it all the way through the red range, keep it in the torque band. And are we going to have a change for the lead of the race here as Ian Mitchell looks to prise the door open on John Baker? He's got the inside line at Lodge. Through goes the Power Max car of Ian Mitchell into the lead, but is he going to compromise his exit and allow John Baker to come back at him? Well, John's trying to, but Ian Mitchell moves over to cover that one. And now they also need to be conscious that Lewis Clark, the championship leader, is also right with them as well. So Mitchell from Baker, from Clark, they're the top 3, as with 10 minutes to go, they head out of Old Hall and along the straight. Simon Waugh just that little bit further adrift in 4th place. Mark McCann, Sean Reynolds and co thereafter. So down through Cascades, Ian Mitchell leading the way. He's already claimed 2 wins so far this season. Both of those wins came for Ian Mitchell last time out at Snetterton in Norfolk over the weekend of the 3rd and the 4th of June. As they head along Lakeside and through the left-hander at Island Bend, Ian Mitchell looking to try and build a little bit of daylight, and he'll be certainly hoping that John Baker and Lewis Clark start to squabble, hold each other up, and that would just offer him that glimmer of hope to try and pull away. Mitchell also with the fastest lap of the race last time through, 1 minute 11.799 on the first of the flying laps, of course. So through the Britain's chicane, top 4 together. Mark McCann still there in 5th place, but the number 64 car's dropped a fair way away now. His best part of probably a couple of seconds back from the 4th place machine in the hands of Simon Waugh. So down and in towards the braking area for Hislops. This is lap number 3 currently. The order still remains the same. John Baker in the safety devices car, fighting away to try and keep the championship leader Lewis Clark behind. 30 points for a race win, 26 for second, 23rd for 4th, and so on it diminishes. So if you're the last of the finishers, say, of which we've got, what, 17 cars on the grid, you still pick up 8 championship points, so it's always worth just making sure you battle away, because the points go a long, long way down through the order. Extra 5 championship points for fastest lap. And at the moment, Lewis Clark is trying to see whether he can move from 3rd up to 4th place, weaving around behind John Baker. But John is not yielding at the moment. Through Lodge Corner they'll go. Simon Waugh trying to close in on the championship leader. And as they head over the start-finish line, it is Ian Mitchell, 2 race wins so far this season, that leads the way. John Baker there in 2nd place. He's also had a couple of wins so far this season. John Baker's wins coming at Brands Hatch and Snetterton, but he runs a little bit wide coming out of Old Hall. Lewis Clark, who won his 2nd race of the season earlier on today, to back up the win that he took at Snetterton earlier on in the season, running there in 3rd place. Simon Waugh sitting there in 4th place. He's had a single win, that came at Brands Hatch so far this year. Mark McCann there in 5th place, and another race winner from Oulton Park, Sean Reynolds, completes the top 6. So most of the race winners amongst the top 6 at the moment. And of those drivers, the only driver that hasn't had a race win that's inside the top 6 is Mark McCann. We're reaching the halfway point of this race, amazingly, as well. 7.5 minutes to go, there or thereabouts. They thread their way out of Shell Oil's hairpin for the 4th time. Ian Mitchell with the fastest lap of the race last time through, bettering the lap time that he set on the previous lap. 1 minute 7.804 now is the fastest lap we've had. And with 7 minutes to go, there's Sean Reynolds bouncing over the curbs as he heads out of the British chicane over Hilltop. Now Ian Mitchell is, I think, slightly pulling away. Now I think some of that is to do with just the pace that he's got at the moment. A little bit of it is to do with the fact that John Baker's attentions at the wheel of the number 10 car in 2nd place have been turned towards defence once more, as he is trying to keep the championship leader Lewis Clark behind him. Lewis Clark is still not quite close enough. He's working hard. Druids is not really an overtaking spot, so the best opportunity for Lewis Clark is stick with John Baker as much as he can through Druids, see if there's an opportunity at Lodge Corner. If there is, go for it. If you think it might be better to get a good run out of Lodge and through Deer Leap, you can always have another nibble for an overtake as you head up towards a braking area for Old Hall Corner. And at the moment, he's quite confident and happy, I think, just to sit behind John Baker and try and get a good run this time as he tries to use all of the curb on the exit of the corner, get a good run out of Lodge over Deer Leap and up towards Old Hall Corner. But John Baker again is taking a slightly defensive run, I thought, up towards Old Hall. Eventually moves over to take the full racing line in, grabs the apex nicely, doesn't run wide on the exit of the corner. So Lewis Clark, rather frustratingly, is bottled up behind. Might be potentially the quicker car, but he can't pick the door open at the moment. Down in towards Cascades. So important to get a good run out of Cascades, and John Baker, I think, was maybe not quite grabbing the apex as he wanted there, which allows Lewis Clark to close on him. But as they head up towards Island Bend, John Baker's going to turn across the nose of the championship leader and still hang on to his hard-earned 2nd place. All of this whilst Ian Mitchell is just edging away in the lead of the race. John Baker this time, again, just able to keep his nose ahead of Lewis Clark. And look at Simon Wall now, who's fully in the mix again once more, sitting there in 4th place. Almost the RAF-esque roundels on the 4th place car, the green and the orange car. I think Mark McCann is starting to close in again as well once more. Erstwhile race leader at the wheel of number 64 car. So all of this is playing beautifully into the hands of Ian Mitchell, who is slowly edging away. Might have been one of his slower laps, 2 minutes 7.9, but he was still the best part of 0.4 of a second quicker as Jonathan Baker goes all over the grass down at Hislops. Did he gain an advantage there? No, not quite, because he's still got, looming ever large in his mirrors, Lewis Clark. But Lewis Clark now, I think he's going to try and unpick him on the run up towards Druids. He's drawn himself alongside. It's a wider way to go up towards the first part of Druids, but if he can brave it out, he's got the inside line when they get there, and he's going to get the job done surely. Yeah, he's got the inside line for the right-hander, and Lewis Clark goes through to pick up 2nd place. He needs to be careful on the exit, otherwise John Baker might have a bit more momentum. But no, Lewis Clark up into 2nd place. John Baker down into 3rd, and now having to attack but also defend because he's got Mark McCann and Simon Wall behind. So Mark McCann all of a sudden has come back into the mix, looking at the squabble that was going on ahead. But in the meantime, Mark McCann was able to go through and up into 4th position once more and ahead of Simon Wall. So they head over the start-finish line now, and that was in the, I think, middle sector of the lap really, where Mark McCann in the 64 car went back through. Sean Reynolds, number 777, runs really wide coming out of Old Hall Corner. That's way beyond the curb line, so that might pick up a circuit limit warning for him. And he's not the only one to run wide as well, because that's Andrew Weiss, who runs very, very wide indeed at the wheel of the number 7 car, but gathers up the moment. They've only got 3.5 minutes of this race to go, which means they should be over the start-finish line onto their final lap of the race next time through, I think, by the time they come round. Have to wait and see. So they're lapping in, what, 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So yeah, I think it will be final lap next time through. Might be nip and tuck though as to whether they head on to their penultimate lap. We'll have to wait and see. Simon Wall in full attack mode. He has got Mark McCann ahead of him. Mark McCann has got John Baker just ahead of that. John Baker is trying to see what he might be able to do to put Lewis Clark back under pressure. So it's 4 cars fighting over 2 spots on the podium at the moment. And up the road ever more now is Ian Mitchell. because the last lap he did was 2 seconds quicker than the pack behind. So here come the quartet for second, third and fourth as Simon Waugh fires it up the inside of Mark McCann. The door closes, he gets on the brakes to avoid any contact. So Simon Waugh couldn't quite get the job done there. And how much has that compromised his exit coming out of the corner? It's dropped him away slightly from the pack. And all of the time now, closing in ever more, is Oulton Park race winner Sean Reynolds rather. So through Druids, all of the time, Lewis Clark looking to see if he can just prize a bit of daylight between himself and John Baker behind. Mark McCann dropping a little bit further back now on this lap. Simon Waugh and the ever-present danger of Sean Reynolds, who at the wheel of the light green car is edging up onto the coattails of the 22. But over the start-finish line comes Ian Mitchell. That lap took him 2 minutes and 8 seconds. There's only 2 minutes remaining on the clock, so they are now onto their last lap of the race. So Mitchell, Clark, Baker, McCann, Waugh, Reynolds, that's the top 6. Then look a little bit further back from that, Nick Abbott is the next over the start-finish line. Nick Abbott has got Ian Graham not that far behind. Then it's Andrew Weiss. Then it is going to be the car of Jamie Good, the marshal here, former junior saloon car racer as well. It's not just him that marshals here, I think most of his family marshal here as well. He's last place inside the top 10 at the moment is the light blue number 30 car of Jamie Good. But for Ian Mitchell, very much on his own now, leading by 3.5 seconds from the pack behind. And what were titanic squabbles have just settled down a little bit now. There's just enough daylight between each one that they are not quite battling to the same degree as they were earlier on. But they're only part of the way around this lap. Still the best part of half a lap of the Oulton Park International Circuit to go. So there's still, with 60 seconds to go, a bit of opportunity to roll their sleeves up and slug it out. Again, a little bit of smoke there from the car of John Baker, and that compromised his run coming out of the corner, and Mark McCann is going to try and squeeze his way through, but John Baker moves the car all the way over to the right hand side of the circuit. Then he starts to move over to take a better line coming in towards his slops. Is Mark McCann brave enough to sneak up the inside? No, he knew it was just going to be a little bit tight. So again, he'll try and get a good run coming out of Knickerbrook and see as to what might happen. Not so much on the run up towards Druids, but more on the run towards Lodge Corner, if he can make it stick. Because if he can get through and ahead of the silver car with 2 red stripes down the centre of it, Mark McCann would put himself in a podium spot at the moment, and he's only had one of those so far this year. He's just off it at the moment. The clock is about to tick to 0, 10 seconds remain. Up towards Lodge Corner will come our race leader Ian Mitchell, and he is on course to become the first driver to win 3 times in the 2023 championship season. So Ian Mitchell claimed wins at Snetterton in 2 of the races there. He claims his 3rd win of the season here at Oulton Park and becomes the most winningest driver in the Focus Cup in 2023. But it is going to be more good championship points for Lewis Clark, the championship leader, who comes through to finish in 2nd position. John Baker finishes in a very hard-fought 3rd place with Mark McCann in 4th, Simon Waugh in 5th, Sean Reynolds completing the top 6. Nick Abbott heads over the start-finish line ahead of Ian Graham, Jamie Good, Dave Todd, and it is going to be Andrew Weiss, who just drops out, I think, of the top 10 on that final lap of the race. Dale Jameson is through. Greg Saunders comes through now to take the checkered flag as well, together with Simon Watts off the back of the grid, who had plenty of work to do. So I think we might still have 1 or 2 more cars to conclude their racing, and then once that is done, we should be able to bring you the full results. Abby Walton, Simon Walton, and I think Sarah Hall just about to take the checkered flag as well, and then that is everybody through and over the start-finish line. So for Ian Mitchell, he'll be as pleased as punch with that. That grabs him another fistful of championship points, another 30 championship points for him to add to the points that he took from the shortened race earlier on today. Should have been 26 championship points, but they'd only did 3 laps in the race earlier on, so it might be a slightly reduced amount of championship points available to them from the race earlier on today. But at least we've managed to squeeze in both of our Focus Cup races here at Oulton Park, and they will head from here to Brands Hatch and the Indy Circuit later on. Let's confirm the results for you then. It is number 81, Ian Mitchell, that claims the win from Lewis Clark, the championship leader, in 2nd place, and John Baker completes the podium. Mark McCann was 4th, with Simon Waugh in 5th place and Sean Reynolds completing the top 6. Nick Abbott was there in 7th position, ahead of Ian Graham in 8th place. Jamie Good was 9th, and Dave Todd completed the top 10. Then as we move outside of the top 10, it was Andrew Weiss that they're in 11th position, with Dale Jameson in 12th place. Greg Saunders was 13th, and off the back of the grid, Simon Watts finished in 14th place in the end, ahead of Abby Walton and Simon Walton, who was the first of the cars off the lead lap, and Sarah Hall was the last of the finishers. So that's the way things have run here at Oulton Park. That is round 10 of the 2023 Focus Cup Championship, but look out, because in a few weeks' time it's going to be the 16th and the 17th of September. 4 races will come up at Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit, so why don't you join us for those. From everybody here at Oulton Park, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again very soon. Till next time, goodbye.